Do you trust your mind? Be careful. Sant Kabir Ji warned us centuries ago, Ke Mate Na Chaliye. Do not follow the dictates of the mind. Why? Because your mind is not your servant. Right now, it is your master, and it is leading you into a trap. Kabir says, just as rust eats the very iron it is born from, your own inner impurities, your desires, your anger, your ego, are silently eating you alive from the inside out. Think about it. The mind is a machine of endless noise. It is M-I-N-D. M for Maya, illusion. I for indulgence. N for noise. D for destruction. It keeps you asleep. It makes you chase shadows. But what happens when a thief finds the truth through a fake goddess? Or when a saint gets slapped in the face, yet thanks the attacker, only to see divine justice strike instantly? These aren't just stories. They are maps. Maps to escape the prison of desires. In this video, we uncover the secret of the breath, the ancient technique to turn the volume down on the world and turn the volume up on your soul. We will learn how to stop the rust, how to stop the noise, and how to transform from a slave of the senses into a master of consciousness. The solution is simpler than you think, but it requires courage. Are you ready to stop the destruction? Are you ready to find the diamond hidden beneath the rust? Take a deep breath. Let's step into the light of Kabir's wisdom.
Saint Kabir has a very holy couplet. Man ke mate na chaliye, man ke mate anek. Jo man par aswar hai, so sadhu koi ek. It means, do not follow the mind's wishes because the mind keeps creating many desires. The one who truly rides over the mind and controls his mind is the real wise person in the world. The second couplet is, Apne man ka mel hai, apna nash karaye. Jo lohe ka jang jo, lohe ko kha jaye. It means, your own inner impurities destroy you. Just as rust eats the very iron from which it is born. Let us start with the first couplet. Man ke mate na chaliye, man ke mate anek. Jo man par aswar hai, so sadhu koi ek. If we go into the depth of our life, fundamentally it is very simple to experience that a human being has a body, and within the body, there is a mind and consciousness. We can see our body externally, but our mind and consciousness are inner states. In the world, an ordinary person performs all the tasks of his life only by the say of the mind, by the arrangement of the mind, and according to the thinking of the mind. As his mind says, on whatever path the mind walks, the person starts walking on that same path without any wisdom. Every person eats according to the mind and lives according to the mind. He behaves exactly as the mind wants. The mind is everything for the person. The mind is the engine of life. The mind can be smooth, it can be spiritual, and it can also corrupt a human being. All this depends on the old impressions of the mind, on the methods of living in the present state, on the person's company, on his diet and lifestyle, on his occupation, and on his lusts. All these situations drive the mind, and we start walking according to the mind. The mind always stays in the outside world. It never understands itself. It always sees faults in others and tries to see every kind of shortcoming in others. Many circumstances contribute to this. You can experience yourself that every human performs all his tasks in a sleeping state. He does no task in awareness. Man remains miles away from his state of awareness and consciousness. Wisdom is almost equal to zero in humans. Every external situation affects the mind. The mind does not use its wisdom anywhere. He spends his life in the sleeping state of the mind, and due to a lack of wisdom, he sometimes unknowingly has to face terrible suffering. Desires arise in the mind every moment. To fulfill the desire, he remains mostly devoid of his wise thoughts. He becomes blind to fulfill the desire. Wise thoughts do not even come to him. Often, to fulfill his desire, he even performs antisocial acts and gets punished for them. And in this way, every day, man keeps getting distant from himself and from God. He does not reside within himself at all. He keeps running all his life only to fulfill desires. But there is no end to these desires. When one desire is fulfilled, it gives birth to another desire. In this way, a long chain of endless desires starts in a person's life. Until the end of life, all his desires are not fulfilled. The person leaves life dissatisfied and then enters a new life. His entire life passes in this dissatisfied state. He cannot fulfill desires because all desires are endless. He gets trapped by these endless desires. These desires make a human being into a devil. Because before one desire is fulfilled, the sprout of another desire is born in his mind. Man, despite being a human, cannot understand the purpose of life. All his life, he cannot understand why God has created him. Why has he come into this world? He remains far away from the light. His entire life is spent in this darkness. That is why it is said that if desires enter a person, he becomes a form of a devil. If desires become zero, he becomes a form of God. Man does not want to become God. His entire life remains in desires, and he leaves this world taking the form of a devil. Desires provide many paths to the person to confuse the mind so that he gets completely trapped, gets locked in desires. You can understand this in another form too, that the mind is called mind in English. The first letter of mind is M. M means Maya or illusion. The world is not as it looks, this is Maya. A person spends his whole life in Maya. The second letter of mind is from I. I means to get involved, to indulge. He becomes one with Maya. he becomes one with desires, and his entire life passes in that. The third letter of mind is N. N means noise. By falling into Maya, the mind makes noise. This means that the mind cannot remain silent in any situation. It remains entangled in every situation. It displays itself to show off to the world. It wants to show society how big it is. The last letter of mind is D. The purpose of D is destruction. By living in Maya, showing off to the world, being completely indulged, in the end, it destroys itself. So in summary, the purpose of the mind is that the mind is a process. The mind changes every moment. Right now it wants something, in a little while it wants something else. It takes different forms to fulfill its desires. It performs to show itself, it makes noise to attract the attention of society towards itself. With this feeling of attraction, it destroys itself. The peace within him is broken, his purity is broken. In the end, the person's condition becomes pitiable, and at the end of life, he finds himself dissatisfied in all forms. He never finds peace. He remains indulged in lusts, remains dissatisfied. He keeps getting entangled with everyone over small things, keeps fighting, and in the end, due to these tendencies, he leaves the world in pain. The person who conquers his mind, controls the mind, then he becomes the master of the mind. He who wins the mind attains divinity, becomes a noble person. Saint Kabir has said clearly, such a person takes the form of a sage in the end, becomes a gentleman. He rises above all the disorders, desires, and tendencies of the world. When he rises above his disorders and desires, then he starts walking on the path of consciousness. Consciousness means he lives life with awareness. By this, his consciousness develops, and he slowly starts being in God. Conquering the mind is like consciousness taking ownership of the mind, so that he can walk on the path of consciousness with awareness. Then he has no suffering in life. That is why it is said, Man jeete jag jeet. He who has conquered the mind in life, has conquered the world. In other words, he who does not live according to the lusts of the mind, becomes divine. Living in one's consciousness, doing all work according to consciousness, is like being in God. This is also said because the mind is Maya. And Maya is just a ray of the light of Brahman. Maya is the light of Brahman, but it confuses the person. Brahma has created this Maya for his divine play. This is the play of Brahma. So only by going above this can one find the light of Brahman. Now the question arises, how to find the light of Brahman in life? We live in the race of Brahma, we live in Maya. But we have to reach that source so that we become one with God. Only by becoming stable in ourselves can we become divine. The ownership that the mind has is only in the world. The world itself is Maya. The mind is in the world, it remains centered in the world. If we take the mind to a higher state, that is, lift it 90 degrees above the world, and start on the journey of Brahman, then slowly the person can establish himself in consciousness. The mind is unable to make the journey upwards, that is, towards God. The journey upwards is the journey of the soul. That is the journey of consciousness. If you do all tasks by remaining aware, then your journey will become divine. In reality, a person is a form of the soul. A person is the soul, and the soul is above the mind. He can go above the mind because the person himself is consciousness, himself is the soul. By remaining under the ownership of Maya, he remains entangled in this world. If a person wants to establish himself in consciousness, there is only one simple method. He should do all tasks by keeping attention on his breath, chant mantras with awareness, practice Kriya Yoga, then slowly his consciousness will develop. The development of consciousness is the journey of becoming divine. Lusts and desires are states of the world. Lusts and diseases cannot progress in the journey of the self. As you go on the path of consciousness, lusts will slowly leave you. There is no need to leave the world and go away. Making the mind zero while living in the world, making the mind zero is the state of consciousness. Now how can this be done? If you have strong determination, you can do it simply. As we know that we live by breaths. Breaths come out of our body. Before coming out, they stop for a little while. If we increase this stopped state, this stopped time a little bit, then the speed of breaths decreases. As the speed of breaths decreases, consciousness starts developing. And slowly the person comes above the mind. Always remember that the energy the mind takes, the power it takes from breaths only. If the speed of breaths decreases, consciousness will develop, and the mind will become relaxed. If the mind becomes relaxed, lusts will decrease, desires will decrease, and your attention will start turning towards God. All this happens slowly. In this way, consciousness develops, and as the speed of breaths decreases, a time comes that the mind disappears. Consciousness rides over the mind. Right now our life runs according to the mind. When breaths decrease, the mind will become relaxed, then our life will start running according to consciousness, that is, according to God. The person will slowly become a sage. The soul will tame the mind. Taming the mind is attaining divinity. The mind becoming zero is divinity of Shiva. The mind becoming zero is the state of no mind. This is the simple method to conquer the mind. If you have strong determination, then all this is possible. If there is no strong determination, then doing all this is not that simple. Now we come to the second couplet. अपने मन का मेल हाय, अपना नाश कराए. जो लोहे का जंग जो, लोहे को खा जाए. The dirt of lusts remains on the mind. The dirt of lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego remains accumulated on the mind. Just as any dirt makes a substance weak, similarly, the dirt of lusts, which is imprinted on our mind, makes the mind very weak. As Sant Kabir has said that iron gets affected and spoiled by rusting when it comes in contact with water and air. Similarly, our mind gets rusted with lusts, and by coming in contact with lusts, our mind slowly starts walking towards destruction. Upon rusting, iron loses its utility. Similarly, the disorders of the mind, the lusts of the mind, destroy the power of the mind. The more disorders you have inside, the more lusts there are, the mind will become that much weaker. By coming in contact with lusts, the mind becomes unable to perform mental and spiritual tasks. Disorders, lusts, different types of dirt make the mind weak. There are only two ways to remove dirt from the mind. The first path is remembering God. Getting absorbed in devotion to God. Becoming one in the love of God. And establishing yourself in divinity so completely, as if you are the form of God. When you reach this direction, the energy slowly rises from the Mooladhara and strengthens the mind. So surrender to God, devotion to God is the simple method. The second path is the path of meditation. Keeping attention on oneself. Keeping attention on oneself means keeping attention on God. Observing within oneself. Remaining aware. This slowly makes the person divine. By doing meditation, the inner dirt, that is all the lusts, come to the surface. As soon as the lusts come to the surface, they all get burnt by the fire of meditation. When the time comes, the mind starts shining like a diamond. Following the yamas and niyamas for meditation, praying to God, and being in God with full determination is the greatest state of meditation. Lusts have established their roots on our mind for many births. This will happen only slowly. By keeping attention on breaths, by looking at your disorders as a witness, by looking in a state without thoughts, these disorders slowly start burning. When the witness and the observer look at the mind deeply, then by its light, the impurities of the mind start ending. But if you want to end the thoughts of the mind and the dirt of the mind by remaining in the state of thoughts, it will not happen. When you remain aware without thoughts in the state of a witness and observer, only then will the dirt of the mind be burnt by the fire of meditation. For all this, improving the lifestyle, paying full attention to diet, determining health, controlling health, these are all initial stages. Keeping the mind desireless and detaching the mind from the world, This is the first stage so that you can walk towards God. Until you detach from the world, removing the dirt of the mind is difficult. And until the dirt of the mind is removed, it will not be possible to go into the depth of God's grace and meditation. If we look at the world, which is like a scene, by becoming an observer without thoughts, only then by the light of the witness, whatever dirt is in our mind will slowly start ending. For all this, having strong determination is very necessary. Only then will you be able to walk on the path of God, only then will consciousness develop, and when the time comes, you can be in God. You can understand this very deeply in the form of a story, how much progress happens in life just by walking on the path of God. There is a very strange story. A thief taught the art of stealing to his son and gave him two teachings while teaching this art. The first teaching was that if you are caught while stealing, do not confess your crime. And the second teaching was that since you are becoming a thief, do not go to any ashram and do not attend the satsang of sages and saints. This is a situation different from the profession of theft. After giving all these teachings, the father died. So once his son went to the royal palace to steal. He was not very expert in the art of stealing, so the soldiers saw him while stealing. So he left all the stolen goods and ran away. The soldiers chased him. He got tired while running. There was an ashram of a sage on the way. To save himself, he went inside the ashram. A satsang was going on in the ashram. He also sat down with the devotees covering his face with a blanket. In the satsang, the Guru was explaining that the person who attains self-realization or who attains divinity, becomes a form of a god or a form of a goddess, his body becomes luminous and his shadow is not formed. The thief's son was listening to this very carefully. But as soon as the satsang ended, he came out. Seeing his expressions, the soldiers who were there recognized him. He was caught. He was beaten a lot, but he did not confess his fault. Because he did not have the stolen goods. He had left everything and come. When he did not confess his guilt, according to the custom there, he was not punished. This was the rule of the state. But the soldiers knew very well that he had come to steal and then went into the ashram. Information was gathered about him, and it was found that he is a devotee of the goddess and does not speak lies in front of the goddess. Because if he speaks the truth, then he will be punished, otherwise not. Then the officials made an artificial goddess. She was made to sit on a lion, and the goddess was shown in such a way that she is the real goddess, so that he tells the truth. After full preparation, the thief was brought in front of the goddess. He considered lying in front of the goddess a sin because he had great faith in the goddess. But as soon as the thought came to his mind that I should tell the truth, just then he saw the shadow of the goddess on the floor. Then he understood that this is not the real goddess, this is an artificial goddess. Then he did not confess his crime in front of the soldiers, and he was saved from this theft. He received no punishment. He went to his residence. When he was sitting at home in the evening, a thought came to his mind that by listening to satsang for half an hour, I came to know such a truth and I was saved from being caught. I was not punished. What can be greater than this in life? If half an hour of satsang, sitting in the company of God, can be so beneficial, then if I give my whole life to God, how much benefit will I get? The light of God came into his soul. He understood in life that only by living in the company of God can life improve, and a person can rise above all sufferings. When this feeling became very intense in his mind, he stopped stealing and became a devotee of God. So when listening to satsang for half an hour changed his whole life, if we devote our whole life to the path of God, we can get freedom from the sufferings of this world and become divine in life. This is the biggest contribution to going towards God. There is another small story. A sage, an old sadhu. He came out of his hut after praying to God. Now he was feeling hungry, he had a great desire to eat. So on the way, he found a sweet shop. That man was making jalebi. Seeing the aura of the sadhu, he gave him jalebi and milk. The sadhu became very happy and walked ahead thanking God. Now as he was going ahead, he was very happy, he was in a state of joy. It was raining, and in his joy, he was stepping in the water, stepping in the mud, and splashing the water. A couple was coming behind him, husband and wife. Since he was splashing water with his feet, was in joy, was stepping on mud, the woman's clothes got a little spoiled by water and mud. So her husband got very angry that he doesn't even know how to walk. He spoiled our clothes, and in anger, he slapped the sadhu. Since the sadhu was old, he fell down. He looked at the sky and thanked God, saying, "Oh God, you feed me jalebi and also give your darshan." Then he got up and walked slowly. Even after being slapped, it had no effect on him. He understood that all this is done by God only. Now the couple, who were going ahead of him, as soon as they reached near their house, that man's foot slipped and he fell down and became unconscious. The story says that his wife said to the people who had gathered around that my husband had slapped a sadhu and he must have cursed my husband, due to which he fell and became unconscious. Then in a short while, they saw that the sadhu was coming from behind. People went to him and asked, "Why did you curse him?" The sadhu said, "I did not give any curse to anyone. He hit me, so I did not give any curse. I am walking in the joy of God." So the people who had come to hit the sadhu did not hit him. And then the sadhu said, "When a person, whose wife's clothes got spoiled, slapped me, and my Lord is there. So God himself took revenge on that person for the devotee. He fell down and became unconscious. So the purpose of the story is only this, that if you are one with God, are in devotion to God, if anyone does anything wrong to you, then God punishes him in his own form. Like that man hit him when his wife's clothes got spoiled, and God made him unconscious. Now how great is this existence? God's power is everywhere. If you are a devotee of God, because he was walking in devotion to God, he did not spoil her clothes intentionally, but he was punished, but God punished her husband instead. So the meaning of saying this is that if you are in devotion to God, are one with God, He will not only wash your mind's dirt but will also protect you from every side and will make you so great that you will be established in your consciousness and become the form of a sage. The form of a sage is the form of a devotee. And God helps the devotee in every form. He brings even thieves to the path and protects devotees too. So we should make this effort to make our life divine so that consciousness develops and the dirt of our mind is washed away forever and ever, and we become the form of God. Thank you.